This is a Mark IV coach from Hornby, and we're going to take a look at it in this Quickview video. So these have arrived with Hornby stockists, and if you've pre-ordered yours from the Hornby website, chances are it's arrived at your address by now too. This is a sample of the Tourist Standard open-end coach in LNER livery, and probably, I think this is... in fact, no, I won't say probably, I'll say definitely this is my favourite livery to have been applied to the coaches and to rolling stock that operated up and down the East Coast Main Line. It just breaks up that linear appearance of rolling stock, where everything tends to be sort of horizontal or vertical along coaches, either at window level or just below. So you can see that the door compartments are actually easily distinguishable, being a different colour from the rest of the bodywork, and we've got a nice finish to the roof there, and the windows are nicely discreet, sort of kept in this linear band of black there. Now looking at the model, very good the windows are too. Just take a look at the glazing there. How flush is that? There's hardly any, in fact there's no prismatic view of the glazing at all. It's all nice and flush. There's very little distortion, which is, it's a trick in itself to get right glazing as it cools the plastic. Obviously when it goes into the mould, its tendency is to shrink in areas, but very little shrinkage there. In fact, if you look at the windows on a coach of this nature, and actually much of the bodywork on a Mark IV coach, which has been hurtling up and down the East Coast Main Line for decades, you'll find that the bodies of these coaches in the prototypes have actually got quite a lot of ripples down them themselves. So if anything, the Hornby model is better than the prototype in that respect. Now I just wanted to talk about the sample that we were given here from by Hornby. So this is the Tourist Standard open end. Effectively, this is the coach which sits between the rake, which is fitted with the tight lock couplers to limit the movement and the sway as the train is hurtling down the tracks. So this is the last vehicle on that rake ahead of or behind the Class 91. So you've got conventional, I say conventional, it's fitted with a Buckeye coupling, the prototype, but you've got buffers at this end, obviously a NEM fitted standard tension lock coupling on the Hornby model here, but you would have a Buckeye coupling at that end, and then at the other end you would have those tight lock couplings. Now again, we've got a standard tension lock fitted there, but included with the model and in a little accessory bag with Hornby are these little couplings here. So let's just take a look what we get. So we've got an example there actually of the Buckeyes and the tight lock couplings. They're actually hydraulic dampers which sort of smoothed out the movement between coaches down the East Coast Main Line. You've also got a set here of continental couplings, also on NEM sockets, and you can have a go at fitting those if you want. It's literally just plug and play. I don't know which is the more discreet. I'd argue perhaps these ones here. I mean, let's face it, the Mark IVs most of the time, and even after the Mallard programme of refurbishment, many of them were kept in the same formations pre-refurbishment. There were a few vehicles which changed numbers, and you know, obviously different compartments were changed for access. But many of certainly these Tourist Standard open ends retained their original numbers. And you could consider fitting these and then put them into fixed rakes and just pull them apart when you need to put them away for storage. So there you go. These are obviously the perfect accompaniment for the Class 91s, which have been delivered by the manufacturer and which have gone down a storm. And remember our review sample in Intercity livery, beautiful model, and the only slight imperfection with that model was its running at speed across points, but there was just a little bit of filing on one of the bogies, and that smoothed that out at all completely. So this I can confirm, we've had this hurtling round a layout, and there's no problem at all with this in terms of flexibility of the bogies and degree of movement. There's no wobble to it, which is good to see. It's smooth running. it's effectively everything that you could possibly want from an item of rolling stock, and it runs really well. It's just the right weight. It's not too heavy. It's not too light. What else is there to say? It's an item of rolling stock. You want it to perform and run smoothly behind your locomotive without dragging too much. This does that. So, looking around the model, so we've got quite a bit of detail around this model. I mean, there are some things that, obviously in a magazine review, which you'll be able to read in the November 2022 issue, there's only so much space on the page, so that's why I thought I'd present you with this video. We can have a good look around the model and sort of pick up what I like and what I've noticed about the model. I mean, for example, at the end of that, don't know if you can see that on camera, but at the end there we've actually got a separately fitted lamp bracket. Can you see that just above the right hand buffer there? And not many people are going to notice that when it's in a rake hurtling around the layout, but that is actually an item that's been fitted by somebody in a factory separately. Now inside you're not going to see an awful lot because of the tinting on the windows, but believe me, there are seats inside that. It's self-coloured red plastic. I've had the model apart. There are just 4 clips located just above the bogies there, and you can easily gain access to the inside there to install, for example, an LED lighting strip if you wanted. I mean, this coach would not be difficult to convert to having pickups on the axles, and then you could consider fitting a little decoder in there. Loads of room inside to detail your interior with passengers. And what would be great to see on these models, on layouts, and if you have the opportunity to take this a step further, would be to have a few passengers in there, some commuters. So somebody walking, around the aisle, making their way to their seat, somebody reaching for some baggage, perhaps somebody on a laptop. I mean, you could really go to town detailing this. And then when it's flying past on your model, as often you see these, if you're at a level crossing or if you're commuting to London, you'll quite often see there's a whole host of different things going on a train. Somebody listening to music, somebody on their laptop, some people having a chat, some people having a drink. Lots of, I think, options for creativity there to be had in this coach. So in terms of detail around the waistline, we've got a whole load of panel detail here. Just take a look at all of that. So we've got grills for the aircon intakes and battery boxes, you name it. Intakes there for various different fluids, whether that's possibly for the toilets. I don't know. I'm not an expert on this, so do forgive me. But you can see there are many panels down the side there below the waist. And a detail there on the end by the door as well is great to see as well. Just about make out the vehicle number there, 12212. And yeah, I mean the bogies, they are one part mouldings, these, so I mean they do the job. They look detailed. When they're flying past on a layout, it's all you could possibly wish for. I mean, some manufacturers now are making these from quite a few extra components and adding extra detail to them. Whether that's really required though on a coach like this, I don't know. I mean, if that's really up to the buyer. If you feel that these bogies aren't detailed enough, then you've got pretty high standards. And I mean, if you want, you could always take them a step further, but I suspect with a little weathering around there and on the underframe, these certainly get the job done. What you've got to bear in mind is the more processes that there are that take place on a model during the assembly part of manufacture, the higher the RRP of the item. And this coach is not something that you're just going to run on its own, unless of course you just want to perhaps have a rolling stock repair facility or something like that. You're going to need a rake of these, so that added price on each vehicle is going to bolster the price of your setup, and not in an insignificant amount. So I think all things considered, it was perhaps the right thing to do to have those moulded as one piece, and they get the job done perfectly. See the other one there as well. And yeah, very, very good attention to detail. The wheels just look the part as well. Sounds daft, but some items of rolling stock, the wheels just don't look right. But I think these, when they're weathered the same colour as the underframe, if you want to do that, of course, you're welcome to keep them as they are, because they look perfectly all right. As they would have been released from traffic, no doubt they would have been shiny steel colour, just like this, with freshly fitted wheel sets. But yeah, gets the job done. Now I'm just going to point out there are a few small imperfections in the paintwork, which I'll try to add on screen now for you to have a look at. But that aside, I have to say the livery application is to a very high standard. There's very minimal overspray on this model. It's a complex livery to get right, and yeah, hats off Hornby. Well done. Another fantastic model. If you'd like to read the full review of this model, take a look at the November 2020 issue of BRM.